Welcome again to Media Rants. We've got somewhat of a media crisis going on in the city of Oshkosh, Wisconsin. Oshkosh Community Media, which has been around for about 40 years, was told recently in a very sudden way that the Oshkosh Community Media TV studios, which has been the site where much great local programming has been produced for a long time, apparently that would have to end by May 15th so that the space could be used for offices for a new communication and engagement division. Now, the city has backed off from that. It looks like the May 15th deadline will be delayed, but we're still not out of the woods on this. And I've got with me today the great John Neiman, who's been involved with Oshkosh Community Media. John, for how long?
24 years.
For 24 years, currently producing a wonderful program called The Place to Be. And, John, before we get to what has actually happened, the threat to the media, tell us a little bit about yourself and your involvement with local community media.
Well, I'm born and raised in Oshkosh, and the only time I left our wonderful city was for my ministry. I had a church in the UP and then a church in Campbellsport. And then I decided I wanted to be an active pastor, not spend my time in administration. So I moved back to Oshkosh and I got into the volunteer chaplain world. And then one day, Connie Carmichael and John Urban, who were staples at OCAT, called me up, took me to lunch, and asked me if I'd be on the board. And that's all it took. And that's all it takes anybody to be a volunteer is to be asked. And that's what they did. And then I started a show called Helping Hands because I I knew that not-for-profits have a hard time getting the word out on their not-for-profit and what they do, and also volunteers. Volunteers are my passion. So I've done that show, and then I started Change, and I started The Place to Be Oshkosh because I'm passionate about our community, our not-for-profits, what's going on in our community.
You are, John. I don't know anyone who's more passionate about the city of Oshkosh than you. And you, I think more than any other person, has actually met the mission of community media to give a voice to the diversity of the community.
Mhm.
And so let us know what happened recently. How were you told that your show and other shows would be discontinued in the studio? How were you told this?
Well, on a Thursday afternoon, an email popped up from the new communication and engagement manager, a very long email, very generic, popped up and said what was going to happen, that Life TV is gone and government TV at that time was gone, but that they were going to cover the meetings. And I immediately, even though the manager in that letter said, you can call me on Friday, I'm setting aside 2 hours for this, which I thought was a joke. He's setting aside 2 hours on Friday to talk to everybody. I immediately called Drew that afternoon. I was the first person. And I asked him questions, and we were talking earlier. His answers were, I understand. Yes, I understand. Yes. And then when he said to me, well, you can do your own show on YouTube, I said to him, I'm 65. I just retired. I love using the local resources that we have. And that was the end of the phone call. And I was upset and I was angry of how he talked to me, but how I got no answers whatsoever. And
What
then,
is it? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I have, my daughter in law is on the board of the Friends of Oshkosh Media. And I called her to find out what happened. And she said, too, that Drew was not on the agenda. He was on the agenda for updates. And this came as a surprise when he announced on Thursday before he sent the email out, which got me even more upset. And I thought there's got to be something that I can do and the local producers can do to stop this.
Can you give me your sense of what we now the local produced programs are now part of what we call Life TV, which includes your show and others like Eye on Oshkosh. I'm
Right?
proudly wearing the shirt. I used to co-host Eye on Oshkosh with the great Cheryl Hentz,
Which is
who
an
I know you.
award-winning show, just like my
Yes,
show is
yes,
award-winning.
yes. Can you give us a sense, John, What has this programming contributed to the community over the years?
I when I think of community, I think of Oshkosh Media. They cover they cover so many things in our community. Oshkosh Media started a program called Spotlight on the Schools, where
Right.
they invited the schools to submit. They came to our school, my school at that time, Grace Lutheran, and they taped our talent show so everybody could see what was going on. They are community. They cover all of the parades, the memorial procession, the Christmas, and the 4th of July, which I host. People love to turn into those parades because they're usually gone for the 4th of July, or they're in the parade and they want to see themselves. I got more responses from not-for-profits also saying thank you for telling the community about our not-for-profit because they don't have PR in their budget. I've
Right.
learned about more not-for-profits that are in a community that nobody knows about, like Sleep in Heavenly Peace. That group that provides beds to make sure that every child has a bed. Who knew about that? They were on
Exactly.
Yeah, they were on my show. And so that was my passion, is to have not-for-profits on my show and volunteers who serve in our community in so many ways.
Well, as you know, I was one of the people, along with you, that spoke at the city council meeting, urging the council to, at the very least, do more research on this. They seem to all agree to do that. But one thing I did in my remarks, and I want to read it here also, everyone up there seemed to have forgotten about the mission of Life TV
Mhm.
to provide an electronic free speech forum that promotes, encourages, and reflects the cultural diversity of the Oshkosh community. All seven of those council members will tell you to your face they believe in free speech, and they will tell you that they believe in diversity. If you believe in those things, why on earth would you end the forum that is actually doing those things?
Mhm.
Can you explain that to me?
Yes. And I was very proud of you when you said that because it's been years. And when I was on the board, we helped write the mission statements.
Yes.
Yes. So, and I'm thinking what you said, this all came upon so fast that in my mind I tried to think what was important, and I forgot that that was the mission because we just do it. We do it who know it. But you look at the shows that have been on there, shows from the senior center talking about physical fitness for people. They covered Hmong celebrations. A couple of the hosts have physical disabilities and they have their own show. And I will tell you, Tony, the one thing that I didn't think about till a person at church told me about it yesterday when I was at church is, what about all the homebound and the shut in people who turn to Life TV to watch the television programs that are televised from their churches? That's their community. They can't get out of the house. That's their community. And he said to me at church quite loudly, too, he said, Life TV is their community. It's how they keep in touch with the community. And I never thought about that before. There's a variety of churches on Life TV that are fulfilling that mission. Now, what are the people supposed to do? My mother in law is 99 years old. She knows how to remote work the remote for the TV, and she knows where Life TV is. But I'm supposed to get her a cell phone or an iPad or a computer and tell her now how you can see the stuff on YouTube? Ridiculous.
You know, John, the whole idea of community access television is that corporate, big business, profit driven media does not pay attention to local voices. It's not in their business model to do that.
Mm-hmm.
They may send a reporter to cover a meeting. The idea of cable access community television is to let people communicate their message in their own voice
Mm-hmm.
and get practice using an actual media studio. This, John, I know you agree with me on this. This has been something Oshkosh should be proud of. And
Yep.
if anything, we should be making it easier, because I've had people tell me that they'd really like to start shows, but they find it difficult to get the training. They find that it's not as inviting as it should be. Would you agree with me that if anything, we should make it part of the Oshkosh brand that this is what we do and make it easier for people to do it? What's your thoughts?
I totally agree because when I was approached about doing a show, I was nervous. Even though I am a pastor and I like to talk, I'm really basically a shy person, and nobody believes that but I am. And I had John Urban and Connie and the crew walk me through everything, do the training. And I will tell you this, I don't think the city understands all the sponsors that are monetarily
Oh, right.
sponsoring all of the shows. I have 3 sponsors for my show alone, but the parades are sponsored. Everything is sponsored. What happens to them now? They're businesses that were community businesses connecting with us. What happens? You're just going to get rid of those sponsors.
Who are your sponsors, your 3 sponsors?
So for my show, my sponsor is You Bloom, and I tend to go in my whole life. I've always gone after the smaller businesses because everybody goes after the bigger businesses. So You Bloom is mine. Karen and the Oshkosh Herald is mine, and now the Friends of Oshkosh are mine. So the
Great.
board, yeah, and they knew what the show was about, and that's why they sponsored it and continue to sponsor it.
John, how much, thank you for letting us know that. Let me ask you this. How much of what is happening right now as regards this media source is a result of the city manager, who I don't know very well. She's only been here for a year. I'm sure she's a wonderful person. But how much of this do you think is a result of someone like her, the chief executive of the city, just not having been here long enough to develop a full appreciation for what local media producers do? Do you think that's part of it?
I think you have a really good point there. In the ministry, when I started out, I was always told when you go into a new church or a new place, you sit back and you watch for 6 months. You don't
Yeah.
make any major decisions. You watch, you see what's going on, and then you slowly implement. She's from West Dallas, West Dallas versus Oshkosh. And I don't think she sat back long enough to watch and to see the importance. And I agree with you on that. I don't. She doesn't understand our community. Our community is close knit, and our community supports each other. And to make a decision like this out of the blue, and then with an email, and if I can just say something, I don't think this would have been brought to the council if the 3 producers did not go to the TV stations and the 2 newspapers and say, "Can you cover the story?" That's the only way Drew knew about it because Drew was asked by them to comment, and the only way that he would comment, of course, was over the phone. Otherwise, I think this would have been blown over. And if the Friends board did not send a letter to the council and everyone else send letters, I think this would have been a done deal.
Well, I agree with you, and I will say, to her credit, City Manager Rebecca Grill at the last City Council meeting did express public appreciation for what local producers do. She did acknowledge that this probably moved too fast, and she acknowledged that there needs to be more discussion of it. And Drew Bailey, the communications and engagement director, did apologize for the way this was happened. And so what
Mhm.
I said was, appreciate hearing these comments, but now the issue is, how do we make this right? So let me get your view, John. What do you want to see happen at this point? It looks like we've got a little reprieve here. The May 15th date looks like they all agree was arbitrary.
Mhm.
So what, and we're going to delay that. So what do you want to see happen?
Well, I will just say, being a pastor, and I just bring that up because there is forgiveness. There is forgiveness, but forgiveness also comes with a change of action. It's so easy to say, "I'm sorry," but there has to be some kind of action behind it. What I think should have happened, and I think should happen now, is that everybody involved, from the volunteers to the staff to the producers, should have had a face-to-face meeting with the people who made these decisions. I don't understand how hard that would be. If you have the email list to email them, you also have the list to contact them. And I
Of
think
course.
that should have been the input right away. I also want to say Oshkosh Media has done surveys over the years, and they have the data to prove who watches the show and what they watch. All that should have been taken into consideration. So that's what I think the next step should be, is face-to-face meetings to discuss why they think they're making that decision and then discuss the input from the community.
Well, I'll say, John, as a pastor, you always ask, what would Jesus do as a Christian pastor? As a media critic, I always ask, what would Edward R. Murrow do?
Yep. Yep.
So, and I think in this case, uh, they would may arrive at the same result, right?
Right.
And it's just what you said. We got to find a way to get face-to-face meetings. We got to find a way to make sure that people in decision-making roles understand what this means. And we have to let them know at a very civil, very respectful, but very assertive way
Mhm.
that this is not going to be dissolved without a struggle,
Mhm.
right?
Right. And I was
Um,
proud. I was proud of the people. I was nervous at that council meeting because I didn't know who was going to come because the average citizen, the average good citizen doesn't like to speak up. They
right.
they, they trust the leaders. And I was so proud, you and Mike and Carmen and all these people came and they weren't mean, they weren't nasty, they didn't shout, but they just expressed their views and the views of the community. And I keep going back to, and I will go back to this. Um, it's communication and engagement manager.
Yeah.
How do you communicate and engage if you don't do it in person? You don't do it by phone, especially. And I'll go back to Oshkosh Media. We were in Oshkosh Media after the interview was done with Fox 11. We asked to come in to tape all of the awards that have been won over the years. This man comes up to us and says, "No, you're not taping." He never introduced himself as Drew. He just said, "You're not taping here." And I thought, this is City Hall. All we want to do is show our pride. And I thought, that's no way for a communication and engagement person to
No.
ask.
And what got me, John, is no one in this city has done more for volunteer recruitment than you have throughout the course of your entire adult life. Mike Hurt, who hosts the Outpost, a literal warrior, a
Mm-hmm.
great patriot, a wonderful human being. Cheryl Hentz, a model citizen of the community. The idea that three people like you would be told there's 2 hours for you to ask questions about something you've been involved in for anywhere from 10 to 25 years. I mean, come on. We have to, I'm at the point, John, and I know you agree. I'm really tired of seeing people treated disrespectfully.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we have to always stand up for that. Let me ask you another question. It seemed like the current mayor was trying to frame this as an issue of, well, change is hard. And I'm thinking, again, guided by Edward R. Murrow, if you're silencing people's voices because you need office space or because you think a bureaucrat on the fourth floor is going to communicate the diversity of the community somehow, to me, that's not about change.
No.
All right.
No.
So, as you were listening to this rhetoric about change is hard, what were you thinking?
I will tell you that I was very proud of Jacob and Ryan and Joe because their message was we need to look into this. We're going to look into this. That was their message. But the other three, including Matt, first of all, praised the work of the city manager. And yes, she said she was sorry. Yes, I agree, she was sorry. But nothing really was said about the work of us in Oshkosh Media. And then when Matt started in about change, I looked at Mike Hurt and I said, I knew what this is going to be. Change is good, change is hard. He never talked about the work of Oshkosh Media. He was
Right.
more supportive of the person that they hired, which I think is what he was. He said, she's our leader. We have to trust her. And I agree, change is hard. But I think you shouldn't do change just for the sake of change. There has to be a
Well, and
reason for
yeah,
change.
and the person seeking change has the burden of proof to demonstrate that the change they're proposing is going to put us in a better place.
Exactly.
And I have not heard that yet, John.
No,
And
no.
one thing that did concern me is a number of the counselors were talking about the need to collect data. They want data-driven decisions. And that sent up some red flags for me because I'm wondering what metrics they're thinking of for
Oh,
data. Because my fear is
okay.
that if the data collected is going to be, well, not enough people are using this resource, not enough people are watching this resource. By that data, you can easily see them coming to the conclusion that we can't dedicate city resources to this.
Right.
The data I'm interested in is how much has the city actually promoted this Life TV mission? Anyone who looks at this honestly would conclude slim to none, right?
Mhm.
And so I think if we start improving that, actually standing for this mission of promoting free speech and promoting the diversity of the community, then we will recognize what a gem we have
Mhm.
in
Right.
that studio.
I agree. And you know, I didn't think about that because you've been in the political world a lot. You're well
Yeah.
known in Oshkosh. I'm more behind the scenes kind of person. Like if there was a party going on, I'd be serving the hors d'oeuvres. I wouldn't be doing the chit chat. That's just how I am. But when you talked about data, and I didn't understand it at first, I do now. Sue Ponick with United Way, she changed how they look at the people for funding. They used to look at the numbers, like you were saying, this many people, this many, and made your decisions. They changed it to the stories and the outcomes from the real people. That's what should be done is how has Oshkosh Media helped, assisted, and changed people's lives? It's not the numbers. You can send surveys out all you want. We all know that people don't return surveys or a low amount does. I agree with you now. I now understand what you were saying about data.
Yeah. And again, John, the cable access television emerged because corporate media operates on a numbers model. You got to get lots of viewers. Yeah, and what is and by the way, what has that ended up with in corporate media? We have news media that always plays to the lowest common denominator. If it bleeds, it leads.
Right. Yep.
We have primetime television that you won't have your kids or grandkids watch, right? Everything playing to the lowest common denominator. So the idea of cable access is that you can have people who want to make a difference in their community.
Mm-hmm.
And we have been so successful at this. And I think, John, the problem has been we have not done a good enough job promoting what we have,
I agree.
praising what we have, and reminding people of the things we say we believe in, like that Life TV mission. And I
Yes.
want to believe that if we start doing more of that, maybe we'll get through this okay. What do you think?
No, I totally agree with you, and I think it's about relationships. You know, um, I've been in this field, the not-for-profit field. I built relationships, so I have built relationships with TV stations, and I will say one of them, Good Day Wisconsin, is because I've talked to them, I call them, all of that. This was a missed opportunity by Drew. A very If he's supposed to be engaging, he should have went and talked to all the TV stations, to the reporters and in the newspapers, instead of saying the only way I'll do the interview is by phone. There's no engagement there. You need to build those relationships, and I agree with you. Unless I contacted 4 TV stations, we got 2 there. I was happy with that, but it was like you need to have those relationships, and we have that in a small community.
You know, I'm so with you on everything that you're saying, John, and let's just hope that enough of us stick together and that the community sticks together so that we can somehow not just preserve Life TV, but make it better, get more involvement, and I want us to reach the point where the city takes off the table the proposal to get rid of that studio space for
Mhm.
citizens.
Mhm.
That to me would be a terrible move to do
Right.
that. So I want to close out on your show again is called The Place to Be. People actually can find your show digitally, right?
Right. So they can. It's mysterious for me because you can go on YouTube and put in Oshkosh Media, and
Hmm.
all the shows, all even my Helping Hand show will show up. It's funny for me and my family though because then it says on there, "Do you like the show? How many followers you have?" And that just gets to me because my kids keep saying, "Oh my gosh, you have two people following you and all this." But I don't do it for that. I do it to share the message. And I do want to say, Oshkosh Media, my show plays 5 of the 7 days of the week for the entire month. So everyone has opportunities, just like they do with every other show. So it's a great way to get exposure out there about what's going on in our wonderful community.
Well, your show, The Place to Be, Mike Hurt's show, The Outpost, and Cheryl's show, Ion Oshkosh. And there are others that I'm not mentioning, and forgive me for not
Yeah.
mentioning them. But those three that I've mentioned, all of you continuously give voice to people that are doing tremendous things in this community. To Mike's show, The Outpost, has frequently brought me to tears
Oh,
by hearing stories of the veterans.
exactly.
You allow people who do so many thankless jobs to talk about what they do and to finally get some space so that we can actually put a face to who's doing these thankless jobs. Cheryl, who's a trained journalist, is always asking the right questions to keep local officials accountable. So I'm so glad, John, that you're on the right side here because we got to find a way to keep this.
Can I say one more thing, Tony?
Absolutely.
You sent me the story that the Titan media did.
Yes.
I wish everybody could read that because that was fair and balanced. You know, we're talking about Fox 11 and WBAY, which did an okay job, but the Titan story did an all around good job. And I wish more people had access. You shared it. I put it on my Facebook page. More people need to see that. The Northwestern also did an article. The Herald's doing one. More people need to see that to see fair and balanced coverage.
Yes, and let's make sure that you talked about building relationships. Let's make sure we keep the relationships with those media to make sure that this isn't a one-time story.
Right.
Let's make sure that we keep them apprised of what we're doing to keep this incredible resource going and help it thrive well
Right.
into the future.
Yep.
Thanks again so much for doing this, John.
Well, thank you for inviting me. This, like you said, they want me to go and do my own show on YouTube. I had a hard enough time trying to figure out Zoom. So I appreciate this opportunity.
Absolutely. We'll talk to you again soon.
All right. Thank you.